So the last paragraph proof that we're going to do is a proof of the congruent complements theorem. And if you forget what that is, you can go back to the previous page. The congruent complements theorem says if two angles are complements of the same angle, then the two angles are congruent to each other. Okay? Meaning if each of them are complements, meaning they add up to 90 degrees with that other angle, then those two angles also have to be congruent. Okay, so let's look at an example here. So here's the given statements. Angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. If I were to take angle 1 and plop it in over here, they're telling you that that would add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so if I stuck it over here, slid it over. Okay, then they're telling me that angle 3 and angle 4 are also complementary. So if I slid angle 3 over here, okay, they would be complementary. They'd add up to 90, okay? And then I'm told that angle 2 and angle 4 are equal to each other, okay? These two measurements are equal. Why does that make these two angle measures equal? That's what we're trying to prove, okay? So we're going to do this in a paragraph proof, okay? But I'm also going to write it on the right side vertically so you can kind of see how one step leads to another. Okay, so the first thing you need to recognize is that because we are using the term complementary, that means something. Okay, so I'm going to write this first. By the definition of complementary angles, because I got to give a reason why I'm going to set up my equation the way I'm going to set it up. By the definition, okay, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90. If these two are complementary, they add up to 90. And if these two are complementary, then the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 also equal 90. So let me write that over here. Two statements, both arriving at those equations because we were told they were complementary, and the definition of complementary means two angles add up to 90. That's where those came from, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to use the substitution property because my ultimate goal is to show that angle 1 is equal to angle 3, which means somehow I'm going to have to stick these two things together into one big equation, right? And then I'm going to have to eliminate the 2 and the 4, okay? Because if I put all these together in one big equation and I eliminate the 2 and the 4 and I eliminate the 90, then I'm going to be told that angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent, which is what I'm trying to prove. So this is my end goal. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use substitution by substitution. Okay? I am going to say if they're both equal to 90, I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it in for 90. Okay? Or actually, I could probably do it the other way. Let me do it the other way. Let me plug this in for 90 on this one. So I have the 1 and the 2 on the left side and the 3 and the 4 on the right side. So if both of them are equal to 90, then I can substitute anything for the 90. I can either substitute this 90 with the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, or I can substitute this 90 with the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4. Okay? So by substitution, I'm going to write it this way. The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to the same thing as the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4. What do both of those things equal? This adds up to 90 and this adds up to 90, so they're equal to each other. Okay, so I'm going to write that over here. Okay, and so now I'm going to do a little bit of work here, okay? I'm going to understand that one of the things that was given to me in the equation, or in the given statements, is that the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 4. So I'm going to put, it is given that measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 4. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the substitution property a second time. Okay? If I know that every time that I see a measure of angle 2, it means the same thing as angle 4, then I'm going to take angle 4 and I'm going to replace the measure of angle 2 with it because they're equal to each other. Okay? So, by substitution, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 4, I'm just replacing the measure of angle 2 with the measure of angle 4 because angle 2 and angle 4 are the same, is equal to the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4. Or you could have replaced this one with the measure of angle 2 and made both of them say angle 2. It doesn't matter. You just have to replace them so that you have the same thing on both sides. Because once I have the same thing on both sides, let me show you. I can get rid of this and this by doing what? You should be able to tell both of the sides of this equation are having those added to them. So if I want to eliminate them, I'm going to subtract the same thing from both sides of the equation. What is that going to make happen? Well, it's going to make these cancel. Ah, guess what I have? I have exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to have the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3. I wanted to prove that statement. Okay? How did I do that? Well, I subtracted the measure of angle 4 from both sides. That's why I had to get both of them to be the measure of angle 4. Both of them need to say the same thing, so when I subtract them from both sides, they cancel out. Okay? So my last step is by the subtraction property, the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3, or you can just say angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, which is what I wanted to prove from the very beginning. And I did that by subtracting the same thing from both sides. So I used the subtraction property of equality to cancel out that angle, so I'm left with the two that I'm trying to prove are congruent. That's a hard process. This is not an easy process to think through. You have to use it like it's an equation and figure out how to use substitution, subtraction, addition, division property. Remember, we used division property on the one above. You have to use those properties to give the reason why you're able to arrive at this conclusion. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. So hopefully that'll get you started. I'm not sure, I can't remember on the homework if you're expected to write a paragraph proof all by itself. I don't think so. I think all of the ones you're doing on your homework, you are filling in the reasons, okay? You're filling in the steps. I don't think you're doing a paragraph proof, but I can't remember for sure. But this gives you examples to follow to look, kind of see what we did over here to arrive at that. So that wraps up lesson 2-5.